Hello, I'm Jeff, and welcome to the 10 Revolutions podcast, where we have conversations with the disruptors improving life on Earth. In today's episode, our host Mark is interviewing Rob, founder of Neya. Neya is an app for connecting people to communities in their neighbourhood. It recently launched in Oxford. Mark and Rob discuss the journey of Neya from its incubation right the way through to rollout. Let's get into it.
Hey Rob, how are you?
Hello Mark. Yeah, I'm well, thank you. Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
How have you been?
Getting ready for Christmas, normal kind of getting busy in the run up to it, but almost there. Yeah,
Kids broken up?
Kids are broken up, yeah. The house is noisy and fun, so lots of excitement. My kids are 9, 6 and 3, so
That is
perfect age for Christmas fun.
That is, yeah, I can imagine that's pretty hectic, but hectic and fun.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. How about yourself?
Yeah, I've just got back from Spain. I've just had a little break.
Yeah.
So my family are actually in Ecuador,
Yes.
so I'm sitting this one out. I've got quite a lot going on here. So
Right,
it's a
okay.
little bit sad that I'm not with them
Yeah.
Over Christmas, but
Yeah.
it has its upsides. I've had a little rest, and I'm going to get lots of things done. So
Nice, okay. So you start 2026 with a spring step.
start with the ground running, yeah, and hopefully all the things will start bearing fruit. So this is episode number 3 we're on now. So
Great.
the podcast is
Congratulations.
coming together. Hopefully we'll be launching very soon.
Good.
And obviously very keen to hear how you're getting on with Neya.
Yeah.
But normally I start these podcasts. We always talk about just how we met. This is normally like the thing. So we have make space in common.
We do, exactly. Yeah, wonderful place to work. It's,
Yeah.
No, I love it. I've been there since the summer, and just full of interesting people. Whatever you're doing, there's someone who'll help.
Yeah, very much. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on there. Upstairs, and you've all the enterprises upstairs, but then you've got a lot of good people using the co-working space as well. So never fail to not have a good conversation when I'm down there.
Yeah, exactly. It's so Neya, as you know, and your listeners don't, but Neya is all about building communities and working in a place like Makespace where there are people helping each other and there's loads going on, and people actually care about the other people working in it. Makes it really sort of inspiring for what we're building. Really, it's
And we're building on a communities theme because we've the first 2 episodes. So we had Philippe Jutras on.
Right.
I don't know if you know Philippe, but he's
Nope.
trying to build a community of experts looking at the future of food. So
Right.
this is quite an interesting project that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Then we had Wangani in, who I think you do know.
Yes,
It's
I know
always
Wangani,
obviously
of
works
course.
for a CIC, which is a community interest company.
Yep.
So very much community, and his mission is around community wealth building and obviously having communities involved in shaping their built environment. So it's kind of very fitting that we're talking about communities again in this episode.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, absolutely.
talk to me about your mission. What are you on a mission to do, Rob?
Yeah, we're on a mission to make it easy for anybody to find community. So, I think we all know when we've found it. We all feel the benefits of being in a community, and there's an incredible amount of science behind that. There's a lot of research that backs up how people are happier, live longer, better mental health. People earn more if they're in better communities because they get more opportunities. So almost everything that we want in life is made better by knowing the people who live around us, engaging with our neighbours and our neighbourhoods. But it's actually really hard to do, and it's getting harder as we spend more of our life in technology. You can get almost anything done without speaking to a person. And so all the kind of small little interactions that happen naturally through human history are sort of being taken away from us. And so, if you look at the rates of social anxiety, of people not feeling like they know how to engage, or the rates of loneliness, one in 4 people in the UK report being lonely sometimes or often. Our mission is to make it easy for everybody to find the communities around them. And we do that by building a platform that you can ask for what you're looking to do locally, and rather than solving the problem for you, it will find you a person or a community group that will help with that problem. And that's what community is. It's helping each other with small everyday problems that over time then build into a sense of safety and belonging and communal efficacy. So we're right early stage, and lots to do to make it happen.
Yeah. So, why has this failed before? Has no one really tried to do this? I'm just curious to know how what the track record of trying to do this in the past is.
Yeah. So, yes, of course, it's been tried, and there are many things that we do use to build communities. I mean, we've done a lot of interviews with people about their local community, obviously, in the last year since we started working on this, and about 80% of people will mention their WhatsApp group, their local street WhatsApp group or community WhatsApp group or a WhatsApp group they're part of, as soon as you ask them, how's your local community?
Next door, maybe.
Yeah, and possibly next door, though less so. But, so there are lots of technology platforms that people use, but they've got lots of shortcomings. And, the problem with technology so far is you've always had to broadcast what you need to everybody. So, if you are in a WhatsApp group, you have to send, I need to borrow something to everybody, and you might not feel comfortable doing that. And so people express less of what they want. Or if you're next door, you're sending it out to thousands of people you don't know. And so, there are lots of things that have been tried, and obviously those are both successful companies and successful things, but there's still this big gap where, lots of people, 66% of millennials will say that they want to be more engaged in their community, but they don't know where to start. And there is a huge number of people in the UK who want to volunteer, but don't know how to find the opportunities, or don't find opportunities that work for their schedule. They want to do sort of small micro volunteering type things. So there's a huge deficit of the sort of basic communications and infrastructure we need to be in touch with each other. If you want to find other people who like making podcasts in the local area, you can Google it, but it's not, you get the ones who are good at Google. You might not find exactly the people who share your ideas or passion or the groups you want to be part of.
That's a really interesting insight, that 66% of millennials want to be more involved in their community but don't know where to start. Does that align with your experience? How do you get involved in your local community, and do you even know where to start? Let us know in the comments.
So we now have this new technology. We have LLMs that obviously most people have experienced as Google Gemini or ChatGPT or Claude, and they let us approach the problem in a totally new way. So rather than just give you a sort of tool that you can use, we can actually start behaving like a sort of brilliant neighbour, right? So the AI that we use, rather than give you just information and say, here's a list of things that might be useful to whatever you're trying to get done, it can act like one of your brilliant neighbours who says, oh, who you should know for your podcast? You should know Derek down the road, or Jane across town is doing something similar. And that's really what we want to build, is this idea of like a super neighbour, someone you can turn to for anything you're trying to get done, and it will know the right people or the right community groups or the right businesses to help you.
Okay. So let's create a use case.
Sure.
I'll create one for me. So
Great.
Fortunately, I'm part of a vibrant community. Makespace is one of them.
Yeah. But
let us say that I'm a fairly average guitar player.
Nice.
And I'm not very confident. I like playing in my bedroom to myself, but I'm not very confident playing in a group of people or anything like
Sure,
that.
Yeah.
So let us say I want to find someone to play with, who's roughly my level, someone who's not going to make me feel inadequate. Where do I start? I want to get on this and find someone to jam with.
Fabulous. So with Neya, you can start either just on WhatsApp. So you can message Neya on WhatsApp and say what you're looking for. I'm looking for other people to jam with, totally low stress, give it a go type, and you can do two things. It'll basically ask you, do you want an individual, so you're looking for one person, or would you like to start a group and start inviting people in?
Yeah.
And so imagine, say, for a lot of us, I think it's easier to say, well, a small group is, one-on-one's a bit intense. Like, why don't we start a chat group for local musicians, sort of who don't take themselves too seriously and just want to meet up every now and then, have a jam. So what Neya will do is start that group for you and put you in it, and then it will make that available to other people. So anyone who searches at that point for something similar, who says I'm a musician looking to connect with others, might be surface this group. But it also will have the history of who's talked in your local area about music in the last, well, since it started. And so be able to go back to some of those people and say, hey, Mark's just set up this group, is this of interest to you? So it can begin to act on your behalf to try and find the people who fit the criteria, how you've described and sold this group. So the first thing it does is this, it recruits people into what you're trying to get done. But the second thing is, once you've got that group together, the Neya stays in the conversation. So it sort of hosts that group. And so it can do things like, firstly, the simple things, so keeping everyone safe. So it moderates the group. If people get aggressive, then their messages get blocked, or, you can't swear in the groups, these sorts of things. And we're experimenting with how to make these groups, not go off topic. So what you don't want then is someone to come in who keeps spamming it with, I don't know, adverts for their own business, right? And so things like that, the Neya works like a brilliant group host and moderator. I don't know if you've been in a good WhatsApp groups where someone's taking an active role and just making sure the community does what it says on the tin. And this is why we think another of the ways we think that WhatsApp can be made so much better is just by giving each group that exists a purpose, like a really clear, this is a group for local musicians in this kind of area who want to do an informal jamming session. And that group stays for that topic, so it can't get hijacked by people and turn into something else. Or, people get what they sign up to when they join the group and nothing else. And if you want to create a subgroup that does something totally different, let's play football as well, then you create it as a subgroup. So Neya will say, hey, that's not the topic, but why don't we create a subgroup for those people within this chat who want to change, who want to join that topic of conversation.
Okay, or you could decide that the Neya has served its purpose and you actually want the group just to be a WhatsApp group.
Yeah, of course.
Pure and simple. You don't want any moderation.
Exactly.
Can you just lift and shift it in?
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
Just turn Neya off or something?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, either of those things. Yeah. So the sort of, at some point you might decide this group is now we're now mates and we want to have private conversations and we want to be on WhatsApp, and that exists for people you know already, for people you trust, for private conversations where you don't want them discovered by others. Then of course use WhatsApp. We're not competing with WhatsApp. We're trying to complement it. I think there's a huge number of ways that people could be connected, would like to be connected, would be useful for people, would help them save time and money and get more done locally, that they might exist on WhatsApp, but you can't find out. You can't find these groups, you can't find these people. And so we're trying to serve the kind of big iceberg of needs and wants locally that there currently isn't a way to get served.
And when you register on the platform, is it with the specific intention of setting up a group, or could it just be, I'm interested in joining different groups, these are my interests? You could list a whole load of interests and say, when you come across people like that, let me know. Exactly.
Yeah. So you don't have to be a sort of super socially confident, I'm going to set up 10 groups on it. That's in fact almost the opposite. We're building it because there are those people, but most of us are kind of a bit more, sort of, let's watch for a bit and work out how I want to engage. And so absolutely, you can just introduce yourself to Neya. You can talk about your likes and wants and hopes and dreams, and over time it will just suggest things to you. It'll suggest ways you can help other people. So someone might ask to borrow something or help, moving something in their garden that weekend. So it might suggest really specific things you can do, or it might suggest groups. It might say, actually, someone's just organised a football group and you said you're interested in football. Would you like to see it, or find out more about that group? Mm-hmm. And so it's working again like this sort of constant community organizer, trying to think of ways that you might be connected. And so it's like having someone on your behalf, kind of constantly watching out for what might be of use to you from what's happening in your local area.
So tell me a bit about your personal motivation behind doing this. What was the trigger for you?
Yeah, so I've always been a joiner. I think it's really the right term. Always wanted to be in every sports club and community group, and I've been on all the local community WhatsApp groups. I always feel like, when I want to walk down the road and know people and feel like I'm a part of my local community, and lots of people comment, on the site, how do you know so many people? Or how have you done that? And when I only moved to Oxford 2 years ago, and immediately felt this like, how do I get involved? You've got this moment of like, I don't know anyone. I'm going to introduce myself to my neighbours, but we dropped cards in the doors, but like, there's no like big red door of come and introduce yourself to people. It's a slow, steady build up. And, for me, it's easier because I've got a bit more social confidence, but for a lot of people, it's really difficult. And you can go years and years without ever feeling like a proper part of your area. And so, my motivation is really like to make sure that anybody who feels like they have any sort of desire to engage in the local community has a place to start and a place to get help, whether it's small or big, whether their dream is just to have one person to go for coffee with, or, get one bit of help because they've just moved in and they need help moving boxes or whatever, really small things. Like people just have a place they can engage with the community that feels easy and approachable and low key. It's not like, sending it out to 1,000 people on Facebook where, for me anyway, the social anxiety is quite high. It's like, oh, is everyone going to judge me for whatever it is I'm asking for? Am I behaving in the right way? It's a really complicated space. And you asked earlier on about previous sort of successes and failures in the space. There have been lots of small successes that don't scale up because that's sort of how we all work. We work in small scale things when it's community organising. But, a lot of the challenge in this is getting the psychology right. It's the subtle behavioural things that make you feel comfortable joining a group, or make you trust the other people in the platform or the platform itself. It's these sorts of small behavioural things that we're working really hard on earning people's trust and earning people's sort of excitement for the platform, rather than
people buy with trust, don't they?
Totally. And how you build that trust is slowly and incrementally trying to do the right thing and build. We're launching in Oxford in February. We're building the platform that we want for ourselves. So it's like, you can't build it for someone else in someone else's village and say, hey, we're giving you this platform, right? Giving you this technology. I'm building something that I want for me, and I'm hoping that other people will want it for them too, and that it'll spread like that.
A product will only grow when people trust it, and they have to feel safe on it. And by all accounts, Neya is doing that really well by giving people the confidence that their data is being held privately and securely, promoting safety on the platform.
Talk to me about your business partners. So Harry and Josh, what do they bring to the team?
Yeah, so my two co-founders. So Harry is a researcher in this topic. So he runs a company called Neighbourhood Lab, which is a not-for-profit which has spent the last 6 or 7 years doing deep research into what makes some neighbourhoods really vibrant and active and easy to connect in, and others much more difficult to find neighbours and things going on. And so they do work for charities, they do lots of work for councils, they do a lot for government. So they run the government's Tackling Loneliness Hub, and they are contributing to the Social Cohesion Task Force and lots of things that the current government are prioritising and investing in. So he's got he really understands this psychology and behavioural point of view. He spent best part of a decade kind of really thinking about what makes people join groups and what makes an area nice to live in, and a lot of the sort of background theory and ideas behind Neya have come out of his work.
Mark heard Viveth Murphy speak at the World Happiness Summit in London. Viveth is a former Surgeon General for the USA and noticed an epidemic of loneliness during a national tour before he came into office. He noticed that isolation was a hidden thread linking many of the country's social and health problems, with nearly half of American adults experiencing measurable levels of loneliness. After this, he named it as an urgent public health epidemic and advocated stronger community infrastructures and human connections.
And then Josh is our CTO, so Josh is building the product. So he was until recently a senior engineer at Spotify, and before that at the Trainline and Gusto, the meal delivery startup, so big company now. So he builds beautiful consumer experiences and is really good at sort of making a product that feels great and trustworthy, and things do what you expect them to do. So yeah, that's why we're a nice complementary team. We each bring something slightly different.
And you must have had some setbacks. So what's the biggest setback you've had, and how do you stay motivated?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really hard thing because we're trying to do something that no one in the world has ever done before. That's like using AI to make people feel more socially connected is
there's an irony in it, isn't there?
There's an irony in it, and there's like people don't understand it. I hope your listeners have got a sense of what we're doing, but you probably can't quite picture it and can't quite imagine it and don't know quite how you'd use it yet, because until you use it and have it in front of you and play with it, it's a bit like if you tried to describe Facebook or Twitter or something, before they launched, you'd be like, maybe, and so the setbacks. So it's been hard. We have raised a really good round. We've got some amazing investors, all social purpose investors who really care about building better communities and better social cohesion. But it took. Maybe every founder ever says this, which is that it took longer, and we've raised the amount we wanted, so it's great. We've got 18 months of money to find out if people do want this and build it and ship it and experiment and learn together with our communities. It's super important. We're going to launch something which is the first version of it, but of course it'll look totally different after 6 months of people using it in the way that they want to, and we'll build from that. So some setbacks on fundraising, but we've got there. Like, we're really, really pleased with the investors we've got, because they share the mission, and that's the most important. That there's no like investors who are trying to make the business into something that isn't serving the community. Everyone is here to build something that's going to make communities more connected across the world eventually, starting in our little part of Oxford, in North Oxford, and then the whole of Oxford, and then the whole of the UK, and eventually as big as we can go. And then there've been a million little setbacks along the way of working out how to describe what we're doing to people in a way that gets them excited, and there've been things that we've been excited about where people just look at us totally blankly and don't engage at all, and there have been things that we hadn't realised were important that people have got really excited about. Like, if I take the community safety one, is a big one. Like the fact that when you connect to somebody on Neya, they never see your number, and you have the AI making sure the conversation stays safe and on the reason you connected. So if you do get connected to someone weird, like that doesn't fit the reason you connected, then the Neya will shut the conversation down and extract you, and they won't have your number. And so actually that's massively important to people, and we hadn't realised quite how high up the list of, we knew it was important, but actually it's really privacy and safety obviously, maybe when you say it sounds obvious, but it wasn't the first thing we thought of when we were trying to design like how the whole interaction should work.
I think people are getting more aware of that, aren't they? So
definitely,
some people are choosing which platforms they want to communicate through because of privacy settings and how their data is handled. So
absolutely,
definitely that is a solid way of building trust with people.
Yeah, totally. That's the sort of stuff we're designing right now, is to, how do we communicate in a way that's not overwhelming? It's not like, hey, here's the terms and conditions, and you scroll through it, 1,000 times, never read anything, and well, assume it's all right. And we don't want that. We want some really clear, strong statements that make it very, very transparent to people, where their data is being stored, how it's being used, and how we're going to use it to deliver what they want. And that's ultimately when someone uses your data to deliver what you expect and what you want, then people trust it. And if you do it, you're getting weird things popping up from businesses you never heard of. That's disaster, right? So like that's exactly the kind of stuff we're designing right now. And we're very lucky. We won a prize with the UK's biggest social landlord, so Clarion Housing. And we're launching with them to some of their residents later in the year. And so, they have a lot of, obviously they take data protection and security and all those sorts of things very seriously. So we're blessed to be able to work with some of their teams to not just do what we think is right, but have a sort of independent third party with very high standards saying, we expect you to be at this level, and thankfully that's what we want to do anyway. But it's nice to be able to sort of not just mark our own homework, but
be held accountable.
Yeah, be held accountable and have those proper conversations. And of course, they've thought of things we haven't, and vice versa. And it makes us a better company by working with them.
Okay, so launch in the North Oxford area February.
Yep, exactly.
Is that a pilot? Would you see that as a pilot?
It's of course a pilot. Yeah. Like with anything, we will we'll learn from the early users, and you don't want to go out and sort of try and get thousands of people using your product before it's been, battle tested. Like we've obviously have lots of testers using it, and lots of people who've played with it, but it's very different to having it, people out in the wild without you sort of setting up the conditions and talking them through it, So we'll launch, it's sort of well in North Oxford, Summertown kind of area where I live, and then slowly we'll build out from there as we reach the point where it's like, yes, people are loving this product is really working. Then you can start bringing it to more and more people. And we've had, like I said, we've had about 450 people who are already on the platform, who've introduced themselves to Neya, who've played with it, and so it's already, we're getting lots of great feedback and learning masses every day. It's sort of a blessing to have people who are willing to test something completely new and give honest feedback, and making us much, much better.
Nice. And what's the end game? Where do you see it going? If in a perfect world, where will this be in 3-5 years' time?
Yeah, we would like it if people saw it like energy or water. It's like it's community infrastructure, it's utility. Like we almost like your phone. You expect to be able to ring anyone up with a phone number. You would expect to be able to find groups and people on there. Like it sort of sits as a kind of infrastructure that's just kind of like invisibly there in every area, in every community, where community groups and people connect. And for anything you'll want to get done in your local area, it'll be like Google. You'll be like, of course, we'll just Neya it. We'll go and we'll find the right plumber for fixing that tap, or we'll find the right running group to go and join for a informal thing, or I want to find other parents whose kids have ADHD. I don't know, whatever you want, like whatever you want from your area, it'll be a total no-brainer to turn to Neya, and that's the dream. We just want we want it to be ubiquitous and low key almost. It's patiently waiting to help you.
That logo. It's quite a unique logo, isn't it? So what's the obviously explain the logo to the listeners.
Yeah, of course. So we have we're calling it the Neya Sprite, a little dragonfly type character that it actually came from my when we first set up the WhatsApp group between me and the other two founders. I opened my phone to have a picture for the WhatsApp group, and my 9-year-old daughter had been using my phone to take pictures of her children's encyclopedia and had been through the insects page. And so the first image we had was that of a dragonfly, because it was the first picture on my camera roll. And I just like it. I just think it's the sort of, it's a kind of like inclusive, fun, and the sort of, we have a really great kind of friend designer person who's worked with us on turning that into something that's kind of friendly and the sort of we wanted to make it feel friendly but also something that's going to work hard on your behalf. So it's like a thing buzzing around, trying to connect people, trying to make work hard. So that's the sort of inspiration behind it. And I don't know, we don't think too hard about these things. We found something that we quite liked and we stuck with it. And similarly with the name Neya, Neya, it means purpose in Swahili, and it means, it doesn't mean anything rude in any language, and it's 4 letters and people can generally say it. And, there's no other famous company using it. So, no, it's worked really well as a name for the company. And
that's quite a rare thing, isn't it? A lot of these names have been used somewhere else.
Well, exactly, yeah, and this one hasn't. So no, we're blessed.
What else should the listener know about you or the product that we haven't touched on yet?
Well, I think I don't know. I'm less interesting than the product, but it's. I guess it's like we'll build the product based on what people want from what people feel is missing in community. So for someone who's interested, to come on, talk to Neya, you can already talk to it through our website. You can go to joinneya.com and go through a very short onboarding, and then you can talk to it on WhatsApp and tell it what you need and want. And it's these things that tell us how to build it, so it's the sort of 450 people who've done that so far, the needs they've expressed, the problems they've said that aren't getting solved elsewhere, what they want from community. Like, people want a sort of low-key, safe way to do things rather than a social media kind of ad-fueled, where all the most angry things are put to the top because they're the ones that get the most clicks. Like, this is like, so if you're listening and you care about communities being joined up and welcoming and easy to access for anyone, no matter where they're from or when they arrived or what stage of life they're at, then we'd love your feedback on the product. That's the main thing. Go and talk to it, tell it what's good, tell us what's bad. It more helpfully almost is what gets you excited, what puts you off. What would you wish it would do in your life, and that just helps us build something that actually serves the people of Oxford and hopefully one day the people more widely.
So where can people go? Do you want to give them a web address or where they can go?
That's right. So joinneya.com.
Joinneya.com.
And you'll see it'll explains on the website how it works, and you'll go through a very short onboarding where you tell it where you live, and you could enter a postcode and a little bit about yourself, a few interests or things you'd be interested in learning about in your local area, and then you talk to it on WhatsApp. So it's a channel on WhatsApp that's just you and Neya. I think the one piece of feedback we had is people suddenly worry they're going to be in a group with 1,000 other people that are also on Neya, and it's absolutely not. It's just you and Neya, and it only responds when you want it to, and so it's like a low-key way to then start exploring some of these use cases, and you can ask it how it's going to help. If you're sitting there with a question about, I wish Rob and Mark had talked about this, then you can go and ask Neya. It's already there to explain itself and answer any questions, and generally it gets the answers. It knows the answers. We've sort of programmed it up with everything we've thought about so far. So if it doesn't know the answer, then we'll jump in as humans, and you can email us, and it'll give you our email address, and you can come and talk to us directly.
So when you launch it, are you going to need a lot more people, do you think, to start with? How are you going to scale it? What sort of people are you going to need to run the business once you're live with it? Yeah,
so the sort of universal truth of startups is stay small and lean and hungry and work hard, and so we're not going to hire a huge team. No, we're going to launch it. We are hiring a couple more engineers, so people building it and building the infrastructure to make it work really nicely for everybody and feel good and work fast and all the things you need to build. And then we'll probably hire one other person to help me with the community growth. So getting the early groups using there, helping make sure whatever people ask it for, it manages to solve, and that might involve some kind of running around, us doing it ourselves, and like if someone needs help and they're not getting it, then I'll turn up with a spanner and help you put your IKEA furniture together. It's like, it's sort of just getting the thing started and getting the network going. And so, so that's our... our launch will be very much small, local, and really focused. So we would like to be able to talk to users. It's sort of all about learning from them, as you're asking sort of how we're hoping to grow. Well, there's obviously some marketing, and we'll put some posters around, and hopefully you'll see the Neya logo around Oxford after a while. But we also know that once you find great community groups, people tend to share them. So really, once we start hosting groups that people love and people start their own groups on it, then it's very natural for people to start inviting other people in. So that's really, we're hoping that it becomes something that people love enough to share amongst themselves. And that's really our challenge for the first year. If we manage to build a product that people are enjoying and loving enough that they're going to share it with each other, then
organic growth.
Then we've built something of value. That's really our sort of golden metric star thing that we're just working towards, is keep going until we've got a significant number of people who feel this is good enough to share it with their neighbours or their parents at school or their people in their shared workspace.
Fantastic. Well, I'm fully rooting for you. So
thank you, Mark.
Can't wait
really
to see it actually going out. And I'll be one of the early adopters, that's for sure.
Thank you. Brilliant.
Wish you all the best.
Yeah, thank you very much. And like I said, for any of your listeners, do get in touch with what you think and, how we can do it better for you, and what you want out of your community and what you feel is missing, because it would just be incredibly helpful and an honour to talk to any of you.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank
you.
you.
Great talking with you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the 10 Revolutions podcast. Particular thanks to Ollie and Stan and the team at Cowley Road Studios. At the 10 Revolutions, we're creating a movement, supporting people who don't necessarily get a lot of coverage. There are good news stories in the world, and we're here to help promote the people who are writing those stories. One of the things we've noticed through these conversations is that when humans want to make a positive impact on the world, they can't do it on their own. Please join our movement via Patreon to support future content and to engage with the community, including the podcast guests. The details are in the show notes. And a final ask from us. Please share this episode with 5 people that you think would be positively impacted by it. Thank you for helping us to grow the movement.